got you surrounded. Yeah, you wear a crown, bring her around. Yeah, if you hurt drug, don't beat it down. Money the only thing on this count. You like black. You love black. Legendary podcast. Legendary podcast. Legendary podcast. Legendary podcast. You ain't ready. You ready? You ain't ready.
Ready for Savon.
You ain't ready.
Ready for Savon.
Legendary podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's up, young world? To episode number 10, Savon's Legendary Podcast. And this guy I got on here, man, he's a close personal friend of mine. We've been rocking for how long it's been? It's been
about 102, 103.
103 years? Yeah. That's about right. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, this man is a very decorated, accomplished vocalist, writer, producer. I don't even want to go down his accolades. It'll run all the time out this mother.
Shoe fanatic. Can't forget shoe fanatic.
Shoe fanatic, yes, that is a fact.
For sure.
Incomparable. World-renowned, legendary. Tony Terry, make some noise.
What's going on with you?
What's up, Tony? You moving around, man? You
I am moving around. You know what? I'm trying to get settled into what I think is the right space, the right vibe for this interview. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think I got it now.
You think you got it?
Yeah, I think I got it.
All right. So listen, man. I didn't tell nobody that I was gonna get my brother on here. I wanted it to be a surprise, because you know what? People tell me, how come I haven't heard nothing from Tony Terry? I said, shit, you ain't following him. I don't know. He out here. He moving.
Yeah, I am. I'm really blessed in that regard. Yeah, we're keeping it moving.
Well, listen, with this pandemic, I don't know if the shit is over or is it starting again. I don't know where it's at, but I know for me, as a performer and a writer, it got tough during this pandemic. How did you hold up through it?
It was interesting. That's my man Red.
What up?
ABC, another bad creation.
It is.
One of their founding members. He in here working on some heat. Yeah, he in here working on some heat. And so listen, okay, so at the beginning of the pandemic, like everyone else, I had to figure, because my schedule was wiped out. Here, bro. My schedule was wiped out. I mean, I was full until December, and then there was nothing. And then I had to, after about 4 weeks, I mean, I was good in the sense that I had just signed, right before the pandemic, I just signed a new recording deal, which was really lucrative. It was really sweet. So I wasn't really worried about money. And so I was able to keep the family afloat, but working, going from being busy to staying in the house wasn't fun. It wasn't fun.
I ain't talked to nobody. I didn't go in the presence of nobody for 5 months solid.
Really? Well, see, I didn't. I won't say that I didn't take it that seriously, but I can't sit idle, because then I just can't. After a while, I have to do something. So I started doing two things. And one was, just getting out, walking by myself with my mask on, in the park or whatever. And the other thing was Tony Terry Tuesday, which didn't start out as Tony Terry Tuesday. It started out being called chilling at the house on a Tuesday like the rest of y'all. But that was a little long, you know what I'm talking about? So I started doing it every Tuesday, and it evolved into Tony Terry Tuesday. And it was really for me to have something to do. I had never done a Facebook Live or anything like that. So I was learning how to use the platform, and it was working out for me. People started tuning in, and I know I was on that thing. I was like, okay, and he's singing songs I never heard, like right, outside of your box too. Yeah, I mean, I was doing cover songs and just songs I grew up listening to, and, stuff I liked. It was for me, and then people started responding to it in a way that I could not have imagined. you know, how important it became to them really quickly. So I kept doing it, and oftentimes I didn't even feel like it. You know, I didn't want to.
For real.
But I felt like it was something bigger than me. It was like a service that I was providing, even if it was just an hour of a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a distraction
Wow.
that people needed.
So you was giving.
Yeah. And so I was doing it, you know, every Tuesday I would just do a live for 1 hour. Sometimes I go 2, you know, it just depends on how much fun I was having. Then I started, you know, upping the production level. I got invited to do a couple of Zoom performances, and my first couple of them were pretty horrible, not because, you know, the performance or anything, but because of the platform and not knowing how to broadcast.
I was about to say, listen, Tony, you know, you're not extra technically inclined, okay? I know that. But once you get it, you got it.
Got it. Right. So it took me about 3 months to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how to do how to make the sound good on Zoom, for example, because Zoom they do not like live performances. So the Zoom platform hears music as background noise and tries to cancel it out. So I had to try to figure that out because the gigs that I was being offered were on Zoom. You know, I wanted to make the best of it. So I figured it out. You know, I just started getting calls, man, for doing virtual things. I think it was the result of sowing, you know, into the universe that it just started coming back tenfold, because I basically worked throughout the entire pandemic. If it was virtual, if it was a socially distanced gig, you know, I was working. I was getting hired for private things. And they were paying my rate, and the checks were clearing. So
what the hell?
I went.
You know, it's funny. It's really ironic that you say that you did it even though sometimes you didn't want to, and as you were giving, you start seeing the results of that in ways you may or may not have even anticipated. It's funny that you say that, because full disclosure, you know, it's 1.5 million people suffer from this. I'm one of the people that kind of suffer from depression sometimes, right? And I would get into these slumps, Tone, and it would be like one day I just start reaching out to people that follow me on my social media that I don't even know, never talk to, and say, hey, I hope your day is going good. I know we never talked, but hey, I hope you have a blessed day. Just doing little stuff like that. And then I start to do it more. And I found out that making somebody else's day got me out of the slump, out of depression. I never saw that coming.
Wow. You know, well, then full transparency, you know, I started experiencing depression and anxiety as well during that time.
Wow.
But it didn't have anything to do with the pandemic per se.
Right.
You know, there were other things going on that brought it on, and I was unfamiliar with it. And, you know, I mean, I would wake up in the middle of the night, really panicking. 3 o'clock in the morning, just having, and I had a nice townhouse in the city, and you know, it was large, but it wasn't big enough. I had to go outside, catch my breath, tell myself everything.
Look at that.
And then I started, you know, I was living in this kind of bubble. I mean, in other words, I wasn't sharing my experience with anyone because my pride wouldn't let me. But by this point, I had been doing Tony Terry Tuesday regularly enough that people noticed when I was having a good day and when I wasn't.
Wow.
And they would say, you know, they'd ask me how I'm doing, you know, on my live, and I say I'm good, and they'd be like, "No, you're not. Look, we've been watching too long. We know.
We know you now,
and we know that you're not good." So I told my fans that I was suffering from anxiety and depression, and the response from that was amazing. And then after that broadcast, I get a call on Messenger, and when I answer it, it's dark. It's black, and the dude is on the phone in his room, all the lights out, panicking. So he called me to tell me that, you know, he appreciated me coming forth because he was having that moment right then and there, and he couldn't do anything about it. It was pitch black. So I was like, you know, first of all, you have to know that everything's going to be all right. But the first thing you have to do is roll over and turn the light on. You know, something that simple was difficult for him. He turned the light on, And then we started chopping it up. I mean, he knew who I was, but I didn't know who he was. He introduced himself, and we just talked. I shared with him my experience. A lot of what goes wrong in our community is that brothers don't talk to each other.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? I mean, we believe that we're supposed to show any sign of distress, any sign of a problem in our lives, projects as, or is perceived as, weakness. And Black men have been through it for so long and have it so hard that they don't want anybody to believe that they're weak. But it actually takes a really strong person to be willing to admit that he is in trouble, whatever that kind of trouble is. It's a mental distress or physical pain. I had a friend call me last night, wanting to have a private conversation about some health issues. And of course, I'm not a doctor, but hey, he reached out to me. Mm-hmm. And so, however, even if it's just to not say a word, but just to listen, sometimes, I think that I'm really lucky because I have surrounded myself with brothers that pray, brothers that pour into each other. Because I feel like that if I'm your friend, which I don't allow people to use so casually, that comes with responsibilities.
That's right.
And if I'm not benefiting in some way and being your friend, and I don't necessarily mean finances, but in some cases it's finances, but if you're not better because of your time with me, then we're wasting time. And likewise, there's no need for us to hang out together if we're not making each other's lives better. With words, with business ventures or whatever, if we're just hanging out and chilling, I'm too over that. Doing nothing.
Hey, all right, remind me not to come over your house no more and chill. Thanks a lot.
No, well, it's not even about, listen, no, I'm not that chilling ain't cool, but what I'm saying is, I like to take something from my encounters with my brothers.
Of course.
Even if it's a nugget or something, we're taping, I won't say the real name of it, but we're taping a show, or we taped a show. We did like several episodes of it. That was 5 brothers, 5 guys, different ages, just talking. And it wasn't about a show like that we're setting up for it. So what it was I invited these dudes over to the townhouse because I wanted to start having a fellowship. I wanted the world to see, that Black men together are not clowns.
That's right.
That, we don't always have to be talking about sports and women and cars. So we can be talking about real life situations and matters of the heart, that kind of thing.
But the problem with that, Tom, not to cut you off, man, the problem with it is I have these type of conversations that we're having right now all the time, right? But we're not raised. First of all, look who if we have a male figure or father figure in our lives, they got baggage too. They wasn't raised like that, so it's hard for them to raise us if they in our lives. And then secondly, is our environments as Black men. Our environments speak a different language. We have to be a different way.
Yeah, but we have to one, not be content with the way that we are.
100%.
You know what I mean? Some people are okay with being ignorant. And then there's some people who seek information. And you're right, our fathers did not. I grew up with my father in the house, and I love my father till the end of the universe, and we know that that's infinite. But there were things that he didn't know to give me. Like, I didn't say I love you to my dad. He didn't say it to me until I was a grown man, because no one said it to him. I love you was implied by the fact that you had a roof over your head, clothes on your back, food on your table. That's I love you. You know what I mean?
My mother the same way.
Before my father passed, we were saying it every day. Sometimes I just called to say I love you. And I do it with my son 10 times, 20 times a day, a lot. That I love him and that greatness is within him. And it's up to him what he chooses to do with that greatness. Mm-hmm. But it's there, it exists. Mm-hmm. So I just try to drop nuggets into my son, and but my father didn't know to give me those nuggets. He had to figure it out all on his own. And when I realized that he couldn't give me what he didn't have, because there was a time when I was angry at him for not being attentive. That makes any sense?
It makes all the sense, and it's crazy because my mother, who's still with me, is that way, right? But my father, who passed in 2008, that changed my life forever. But it was very similar. Before he died, he was my best friend. But all throughout my childhood, he would just beat "I love you" into me and my sister's head. And it got to the point like, okay, you love me, I get it, geez. But he told me before he died, he said, son, the reason I tell you I love you so much, because there may come a time where you need to know I love you,
right,
but I'm not able to tell you.
Right.
I said,
wow. So wait, you said your dad did that, but your mom doesn't?
Yes.
Wow, that's interesting.
And
because
then check this out. And check this out. My dad never even met his dad. I'll tell you a real quick story because I want to get back to what we have lined up here. Real quick story. And my dad, I realized probably when I'm maybe almost 30 years old that my granddad is not my biological father. It was the guy that my grandmother married, but it wasn't my biological father. So I called my mother and said, Mom, hey, how come I'm just now realizing that granddad ain't my biological grandfather? He's like, I think you need to call your father. So I called him. I said, Pop, what's up? He's like, no, that's not your biological grandfather. I said, well, I'm almost 30 years old. Who's your dad? Tell me about him. He said, well, I never met him, right? He says, but I did get a letter from him. I said, that's great. What did the letter say? It said, hey, son, I love you. I'm thinking about you. I'm in Brazil. I just want to let you know I'm okay. I said, Dad, that is amazing. You got a letter from your dad you've never met? I was like, well, when did you get the letter? He said, 1963. I said, my face did that, what your face just did. I said, what? But with going through all that, he still had the wherewithal to tell me I love you till it got beat in my head. But my mother, who I still have, is different.
He probably did that because he wanted it so badly. And
that makes sense.
And so he wanted to make sure that he was on top of that with his kids. And I'm so grateful that he, did that. I'm so grateful for whatever the reason, because, hearing those words, especially to a young man, to a boy growing up, it's important because, we grow up, I grew up believing that, or being told that I couldn't even cry until, unless I'm gonna give you a reason to cry. Stop that crying. So nothing, I couldn't even cry. Wow. You know what I mean? Stop that crying. Boys don't do all that. Then what am I supposed to do?
Wow.
What am I supposed to do when I'm hurting? I can't cry. I can't show anything like, that I'm hurting. But I'm a Pisces. So I'm an emotional being. So that could not be kept under wraps for me.
Do you find yourself expressing some of those feelings through song?
I do. I'm not that dude, like, like my wife cannot say, I don't know what he was thinking. He doesn't talk to me. No, I'm opposite. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy who talks too much. This is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I want you to do. This is what I need from you. This is how I want it.
Verbal.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, we don't. I know you're busy, Tone. We don't got a whole lot of time. But speaking of song, for all the people that don't know, you know what I saw? Lovey Dovey was higher on the R&B charts than With You, but it wasn't higher on that Billboard Hot 100.
Right. It was a bigger record, and yeah. And on the other
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the other thing is that Lovey Dovey was the very first song that I ever wrote, and I was on the 1 train in New York, heading down to my very first recording session for the album, right? And I didn't know what I was going to be writing. I didn't know what it was going to be, who I was going to meet. I just knew his name was Bob Kazuri. And I'm sitting on the train and I kept singing, It's that lovey-dovey feeling I get when I'm with you. And I thought, this shit is whack. Like, really, I'm trying to put it out of my mind and think of something else. But it kept coming back to it. It's that lovey-dovey feeling.
That melody.
And then the verses came super easily. So from the trip, getting on the train at 158th Street to getting off at Penn Station at 33rd, I had written the song. So wow. I get over to the studio and I hear this music because it's playing so loudly through the door, at this apartment. And it was the track that would end up being Lovey Dovey. So I'm standing outside the apartment. I'm excited because I just wrote these lyrics on the train and they fit this music that I'm hearing.
Wow.
And I'm singing it outside. I used to think that love was so silly then, all that kissing and stuff. I was, and it was just working. So I sang all the way through the hook, and then I pounded on the door, and Bob opened the door, and I was like, before I even said who I was, because he was expecting me, I was like, yo, who is this track? What's this music? What is it? Who is it? What's going on? And he was working on it was for In Vogue.
It was for In Vogue?
Yeah, and so I told him that I had written these lyrics that fit perfectly with this track. And
wow.
He said, well, let me hear it. And so I sang what I had over his track, and he was like, "Oh, they don't have to know." So I cut it that day. I cut the demo that day, and it was a fun. It was still corny, but it was a fun corny, fun corny. And
it worked.
CNC Music Factory, Robert Clavillis, came and played on it. And he sampled the laugh in the front and, did some post-production on it. And I think that between him and the engineer that mixed the record, they made it magical. Yeah.
Wow. Well, With You is probably easily your most requested song.
Yeah, that and Everlasting Love.
Now, listen, I'm glad you said that, Tony, because before we ever met, I had the single. And I bought the tape album twice. And I said, man, why is people sleeping on Everlasting Love? But they
hated that song.
But they wasn't sleeping on it though.
But listen, I didn't like Everlasting Love. I did not. When I was writing it.
Stop, Tony.
I didn't like it. I was working on it with Bobby Reese, who I wrote it with, and I kept saying, and he kept saying, this song is anointed. Just watch.
Wow.
Just watch. And he just kept saying that this song is anointed. And I remember having Casey and JoJo. They were just about to sign their deal, and they was over in some hotel in New Jersey tearing it up. And I invited them over to the studio, which was in New York on Broadway and 47th Street, I think. And I didn't really have any money. I paid them. It was a little bit of money, but the real focus was the chicken and biscuits. that was really all I had. Like I got chicken, I got biscuits.
Sounds fair. It sounds fair.
They came over to the studio. I sent a car to pick them up. They came over to the studio and we did the remix together. And
there's a remix?
There's a remix to Everlasting Love with Casey and JoJo and members from Ex-Girlfriend, if you remember that group from the 90s, from the 80s.
How come I never heard? Where's this remix at?
I'll send it to you. I mean, it was pretty popular. It was part of the reason that it stayed so long was the remix. I can't believe you never heard it, man.
I'm under a rock, B. I can't even believe it. Okay, so
good.
We got about 12 to 15 more minutes. What I want you to do, because you told me this story one-on-one. We was probably at a bar or something. I think we might have been at, I forget, we was somewhere. But you told me the With You story for the first time, and it was years ago. For all the viewers here who don't know, because a lot of people don't know.
Okay.
With You, how did it come about? And before you end it, who was it about? Because I know.
Okay. All right. Okay. Wait. Okay, I'm messing up here. Okay. So it it was written by a friend of mine, Raymond Reeder. All right. You know, we did a lot of music and theater together in DC. I would say we grew up together. Well, we certainly cut our teeth in the industry together. And Raymond went on to do some great things with Yolanda Adams and with Renee and Angela back in the day. And so he, you know, I was working on my second album, and I stopped by his house because he lived in my hood. So I stopped by his house to listen to some songs that he wrote, and With You was one of them. And by the time it got to the end of the first, you know, it's for real what I feel when I'm with you, I stopped it, and I was like, when are we recording the song? I don't know what's happening here. Can you see me?
What just happened?
Okay. I don't know what's going on. All right. And so I asked him, yeah, okay, so back in high school, you know, I had this crush on this girl. And in my mind, she was my girl, but I never actually said it, or I never actually asked her because I wasn't ready. You know? It wasn't ready. And but I'm ready now. No.
I was about to say Tony wasn't ready.
No, I was a young cat. I wasn't, you know, I hadn't come into myself yet. And so I was intimidated by her because she was so pretty. And so he's like, do you remember such and such? And I'm like, yeah. Yeah. I mean, what's she have to do with this? Right. And he was like, he wrote it about her. So I was like, how you gonna write a song about my girl, man? Well, she wasn't actually my girl, but you know, in my mind she was. So I had a problem with that. But so he apparently had a crush on her as well. Something that he kept to himself, and he wrote a song about her. People think that I wrote With You for my daughter, but I can only wish that I did that. Right. I did a video that featured my daughter, and my daughter was the inspiration for me to record it. But I didn't write it, so I can't even say that. And so I recorded the song, and when it was time to choose the second single from the second album, the first single.
Now you're on the label. You're assigned to a label at this point.
Epic, yeah. Epic,
okay.
Yeah, Sony. I was there with Michael Jackson and Luther, Tina Marie, a couple of others that, you know, I couldn't. Wow. They didn't know what to do with me. They was like, you know, I had no track record. They had spent millions. Excuse me. They had spent millions of dollars acquiring my contract from Capitol, which I was initially signed to, but I never recorded for.
Wow.
And so I chose With You, and they didn't want that to happen. They just weren't feeling it, but I wasn't letting it go. I couldn't even hear anything else. So I don't even know what the other possible singles would have been, but because I wasn't hearing it. It was With You, and that's it. So my record was released with, back then the radio was serviced with vinyl. You know, each city has a local promotions manager, and that manager's job would be to go to radio every Monday or Tuesday and get them to play one, if not all, of their new records that came out that week. And it could
record pool.
Well, you know, like in the day there were 40 major labels back then, right? Yeah. So that means there's 40 guys walking into the radio station on Monday with about 10 records, and there's only 5 slots for the program director to add records. It might not even be 5. It might even only be 1 that week. So 40 guys coming in with a stack of records, and they, you know, play my record. So he has to listen to all this music and then decide which one he's going to add into rotation. And so my record was in one of those piles, but it didn't have any label markings on it. It was plain. It was white.
White label.
Nothing. It was a white label. Had no information on it. In hindsight, I think that made that look stand out. It made it stand out. It was the only one that was a plain white label. So I would be curious. At least I would if I was a program director.
Wow.
What it is. And so With You started growing with no support from the label. In fact, they put it out and virtually ignored it. And it just started happening organically. It had nothing to do with anything that I was doing. Record the song. And then one day I was walking into our office, and our receptionist was out of her chair. And so I answered the phone. It was Anita Baker. I didn't believe it, but you know, I went on.
Wait a minute. You answered the phone. The damn receptionist is taking
in
a
the
dump.
bathroom. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you just had the wherewithal, like.
Well, I walked in the office. It was ringing, and I just answered it. And it was Anita Baker who was looking for me, and I didn't believe it. I swear I did not. I was like, "Just okay, all right, I'll go along with this." And you know, so she told me that she had seen a performance of mine that was on the Party Machine, which used to come on after the Arsenio Hall show back in the day. And she saw it. She said, I was awakened by one of the most beautiful songs I ever heard in my life. And she was on Electra with, I'm just going to say what she said. I didn't say this. This is Anita Baker, and I'm quoting it. She said that she hadn't seen the video for it, and she asked me about it. I said, well, the label didn't think the song was a hit, so it's not going to be a video. She said, what? Those people wouldn't know a hit if it hit them in the forehead. And then she said, I'm over here signed on the same label with Keith Washington, and he couldn't shine your shoes. And she just went on and on and on and on and on.
Shout out to Keith. Shout out to my man Keith.
Shout out to Keith. I got number love for you, Keith.
Keith was my uncle, man. That's
my family, man. I love him. I'm just saying what she said.
No, for sure.
And so she asked me for the video, and of course there wasn't one. And so she's like, look, I'm gonna send you $50,000. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, right. She said, I'm gonna send you this money, and I want you to shoot the video for with you. And I'm gonna call Blair Underwood, who's a friend of hers, apparently. And he directed it. And she just gave me just a whole bunch of things that I could not have paid for at the time. And I asked her, how do I pay her back? Why was she doing this? And she said, she's just like, listen, your job is to become a star. And I'm just, you just do that. And I was like, okay, well, thank you. I mean, I didn't know what else do you say? But what else do you say?
It's nothing. First of all, it's Anita Baker.
Right. Yeah.
Second of all, you don't say nothing.
But thank you, Miss Baker, and thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus.
That's it.
But listen, moving forward about 25 years, and the Monique show is on the WB. And I was on as a guest, and my wife heard that Anita Baker was coming. So we got tickets because her mother's a fan. Of course, I'm a fan. So we got tickets to come back as guests to see Anita Baker perform on the show. And they put us on the front row. And she, I doubt that they would have let her know that I was there in the audience because no one knows our story. And then it was 25, 30 years prior to that moment. So she was on and she was performing, she was singing Sweet Love, I think. But right at the end of it, she was doing her thing, like she got marbles in her mouth. I'm sorry, Anita Baker, I'm just saying. So, but she opened her eyes and we made eye contact. She saw me, it registered that it was me, and her eyes got big, and she started, lighting up a little bit. And we went to commercial, and she was having a conversation with Monique, and I could tell that I assumed that they were talking about me because they were looking in my direction and kind of snickering and having a moment. I assumed that that's what she was talking about. So when she came back from the break, Monique talked about it. She, that Miss Baker had told her the story during the commercial break. So she asked her, why did she do that? Why did you do that? And Anita Baker responded by saying that I was being obedient to the Spirit. I said I was compelled to do it. I would have been. She said I would have been out of order not to do it.
Wow.
And that was a moment for me because I didn't know why she did it. I didn't, I never knew. But it was a moment. It was a little teary-eyed moment sitting in the audience.
I mean, hell yeah.
Having that. But
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. It was just a big moment. And then for for it to come full circle in that moment, in that circumstance, in that environment.
The sound just went out.
Okay.
We back? Okay.
All right, so that night, Jesus, I lost my frame of thought. My phone started ringing.
Okay, that's why we lost the sound. No, you said it was a teary-eyed moment, and
yeah. My next point, I kind of forgot about it, but it'll come back to me. You know, some marijuana reason I be forgetting shit. I mean to say that.
So let me ask you this. Do you think without that happening, Tony Terry would be as successful and long-lasting as he has been? This is a serious question.
No, yeah, a question that I take seriously. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, my first single made a really big impact, and then, but With You took it to the next level. People forgot about all of the other music, and I had at least 6 singles prior to With You that were all in the top 10. But they were all completely forgotten about when With You came out. And then, you know, the attitude shifted from my label, which was, you know, only Stevie Wonder could do a song like this and get away with it, to, we knew it was a brilliant song from the very beginning. You know, I'm like,
kidding me. They said that.
So that's when I understood that, you know, this music business thing is ego driven, and if you don't play it right, you know, it could be to your detriment. So I had to just let them have that. I had to let them have that.
I mean, that whole sequence of events is obviously divine, in my perspective of it. I know you got some recording to do, man. Thank you for sharing your time. You know, you're my brother from another mother. What is Tony Terry about to do next? What can we look forward to?
Step out of this room, this hot ass room.
that's what we can look forward to.
That's the first thing to do, so I can collect myself and then think about what the next thing in my life is going to be. Dude, I don't know. I just like to be ready for whatever God has for me. You know, I'm always working on music. I'm always doing that. I was in a film last year. Actually, it's been 2 years now. I played Malcolm X in a movie called Martin, Malcolm and Me, which was, you know, that was an interesting, you know, piece to take on. I'd heard that you know, over the years that I resemble Malcolm X, and I never really saw that.
If you put the Malcolm X frames on, it's a wrap.
I had the haircut.
Yep.
I had the ring, and the skinny tie, and the black suit with the white shirt. I look like Malcolm X.
Both of y'all are damn near redheads too.
Yeah. Actually, I was. You know, the older I've gotten, my hair has darkened up. But you know, I was a blonde-headed black boy. I don't know how that happened. I mean, my dad was black, so.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, Tony, man, thanks for your time again. Like I said, you know, you my brother from another. Anything you want to say before we sign off here?
Well, you know, I appreciate you, man. I see you doing your thing. And you know, however I can support you, man. You've always been supportive of me and what I do. And of course, I extend that same gratitude to you, man. But it's a pleasure to be here and chop it up with you. And you know, let's keep doing it. Let's do it till we get it right. In the words of
Aretha. All right, y'all. Y'all have been witnessing the incomparable Tony Terry, Savon's Legendary Podcast, episode 10. As always, peace, young world.
All right, man. Be well.
Love you, man. Peace.
Love you back.